Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast, a show where we talk to and spotlight Black engineers, innovators, educators, inventors, and entrepreneurs doing amazing things in the world of technology. This podcast is where they share with our audience their experience, their ideas, their knowledge, and their perspective on tech. I'm your host, Greg Greenlee. And if this is your first time listening, you can check us out at the following URLs. We are at www.blacksintechnology.net. We are also on the Twitters at Black in Technology, and that's BLKINTECHNOLOGY. We are also on Facebook, so check us out on Facebook. So that's facebook.com/Blacks in Technology. And we also have a growing LinkedIn group under Blacks in Technology. So just do a search on LinkedIn and you're sure to find us there. So if you are on Twitter right now, you have questions for our guest tonight, tweet them using the hashtag BitTechTalk. That's BITTECHTALK. Blacks in Technology is a tech-focused community and media organization focused on increasing diversity in technology. We always focus on forming new partnerships and opportunities to assist our members with their continued professional growth and development. So if you want to partner with us, send us an email to partnerships@blacksintechnology.net. Any general inquiries, you can send an email to us at info@blacksintechnology.net. And if you want to sponsor one of our fabulous podcasts and get your organization or your company or your business or whatever in front of our live audience, you can send us an email to sponsorship@blacksintechnology.net. Now, a couple of announcements. I announced this on our last podcast, but the DevOps Days Ohio thing is coming up. That's going to be November 18th and 19th. And no one has claimed any of the free tickets that we have to give out. So if you are going to be in the Columbus, Ohio area during those dates, November 18th and 19th, and you are interested in DevOps, shoot us an email to contact us at blacksintechnology.net and let us know that you would like a ticket. We've got a few of them for our members for you to attend that conference for free. It's going on at the Bluestone in Columbus, Ohio, and that's November 18th and 19th. Also, there is Tech 808 event that's coming up in New York, and that's going to be on Monday, November 9th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you check out the Blacks in Technology site, we do have a discount code for that. I think it's BIT. So that is put on by the guys at now the Fat Startup. Okay, I almost lost that there. So the guys at the Fat Startup are putting this on. It's one of the most anticipated conferences of the year. It's pairing hip-hop and entrepreneurship and technology all together. It's going to be happening at the Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music in New York University. So, yeah, definitely check that out if you're in the New York area. We actually have 5 members of the Blacks in Technology community that are actually attending that, courtesy of Blacks in Technology and our partnership with Tech 808 and the Fat Startup. So congrats to those people for winning tickets. So again, Tech 808 happening in New York City, November 9th, 2015. There are a number of jobs on the jobs board, so actually go check that out as well. And I do want to make an announcement about our Slack channel. Our Slack channel right now is at 245 members. So if you know what Slack is, it's the newest thing right now for messaging and chatting and things like that. We have a number of different channels, including entrepreneurship, everything from, open source software to tech to, just random socializing. So we have a form that you can fill out. If you go to the Blacks in Technology site and type in Slack, on that web page there, you will see a form that you can fill out to get your invite to the Slack group. So go check that out. Join us there. There's a lot of people always talking about some good stuff there, and we'd love to have you. So check out our Slack group. All right. Let's get into this podcast. I want to introduce our guest tonight. This is a really I'm really stoked about this podcast because I can't totally recall how I found out about our guest tonight, but I do know that I think it was in our Slack group, I want to say, and somebody posted about the blog post that our guest put up. And I read it, and I instantly was like, oh, yeah, he's got to be on our podcast because it involves technology and it involves comic books, graphic novels. So I was instantly hooked. I read the entire thing. He did send me an advance copy, and so I read it, and I love it, and you're going to love it, too, once you get to read it. So I want to introduce Roye Okupe. He is out of Nigeria. He's a veteran creative specialist who holds both a bachelor's and master's in computer science from the George Washington University. His passion for animation led him to found YouNeek Studios in 2012, an avenue that would allow him to pursue his dream of creating a diverse library of superheroes. So I'm going to introduce Roye to our show. We're going to talk about his latest graphic novel, EXO, and you're going to hear all about it. It's a great story, and I want to introduce Roye. Roye, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, no problem. I'm excited to have you. Like I said in the introduction, I read the entire graphic novel. I loved it.
Thank
when
you
I first
so much.
heard about you, yeah, definitely. When I first heard about you, I knew that you were a must-have person on a podcast, and it was that day that I read that blog post, and I read when I'm reading that blog post, I could read your passion and what you were doing, and I could totally relate to the avenue that you took as far as saying, you know what, if people aren't going to open up the door for me, I'm going to kick it down.
Right.
And I admired that, and I was like, I got to have this guy. So instantly, I sent you an email. I was like, hey, I got this podcast. I want to have you on, and now here you are. So give us a little bit of insight into your background and your education, and how you came about founding YouNeek Studios.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. I came to the U.S. in 2002, I believe, and I actually came because I, wanted to study computer science at George Washington University, and I did my undergrad, and I felt like that wasn't enough, so I went back for a master's in computer science. But I've always had, I've always had a passion for animation and superhero stories from when I was a kid. I grew up watching Ninja Turtles, Transformers, Superman, Batman, Batman the Animated Series,
right.
Justice League, and all the cartoons. I was literally glued to the TV anytime I came back home and on Saturday morning. So it's always been a huge part of my life. So even when I was, studying computer science, there were a lot of things I was doing on the side, learning how to animate, learning graphic design, and different kind of things. So I've always had both those passions for, tech and also, the arts and things like that. For me, when actually growing up, I realized that as much as I love these heroes and these cartoons, there wasn't a lot of representation when it came to Africa or Nigeria, to be specific. So I decided that when I did get a chance, I was going to, try and create my own stories and share them with the world. And as soon as I got the opportunity when I got out of school and, I was a little settled, I decided to, take that risk. And, and that's how I started YouNeek Studios. And, we recently released our first book, EXO, The Legend of Wally Williams. It's been doing great so far. And that's kind of like my backstory. There's a huge part of it that I haven't, said yet, but I'm sure with the questions that are coming, I'll be able to, chip in here and there.
Right. Right. And I noticed that you said, how comics were a big thing for you, a big part of your life. as you were growing up. And I want to say that they're still a big part of my life now. It's funny.
Oh, for sure.
If people seen how many animated movies I had on my computer right now, they think I have a problem. I stay watching, even the stuff on Netflix right now, the Avengers and things like that. I'm still watching that to this day. It's part of me that I can't get rid of. Right. And, on top of that, my collection of comics that I have. Stored away somewhere. They're somewhere right now. But so let me ask you this.
Sure.
You have your master's in computer science. Yes. With that, I'm pretty sure you probably could have gotten a job doing something in tech. So what made you actually? I know you had that passion for getting into animation. But what made you actually decide that, hey, I'm going to take that leap of faith and I'm going to make that transition into animation?
So for me personally, like I said, I've always been interested in computers and also the art side of things. I did actually work for about 5 years when I got out of school. I worked as a web developer, and I freelance from time to time, to kind of like pay the bills, because this is all I do right now is EXO, and I also run my own web design business. As well. So for me, it's not like I'm completely out of the book and trying to promote. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of faded out there for a second.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Well, you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, for me, I'm still heavily involved with, in the tech field. Like I run my own web development business. So, it's for me, the decision came about when I felt like in order to make this book successful, I couldn't treat it as a hobby anymore. It had to become more as a full-time thing. And that was when I decided, if I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to do it. So I decided, I'm going to take a chance on myself. And, also for me personally, one of the main reasons why I'm doing this is because, oftentimes when you hear about Africa in the news, it's not always for positive things. And this is my way of, showing a different side of Nigeria, showing a different side of Africa that you don't get to regularly see on the news or wherever you may hear about Africa. So, that one of my own things is, promoting African art, African animation, and the talent that we have in Africa, not just in Africa, but on a global scale. And, so these are some of the motivations for me as to why I decided, look, it's about time I do something like this. If you're not a superhero geek or a comic book geek, if I told you to name 10, superheroes that are from Africa, you would be hard pressed to, produce that list. And that's something that I feel like, needs to change. We need more heroes, not just from Africa, more heroes of color, period. But for me, growing up in Africa, growing up in Nigeria, I felt like it was about time we had more representation in this genre.
I definitely agree, and I say this quite a bit, and it holds true to me. Anyhow, is that if you don't represent yourself, if you don't put your own image out there, then you leave it up to somebody else to do it for you, right? And so,
right.
And so, I'm always happy to see somebody taking the initiative and actually, doing this. They're executing on their idea, and they're saying, hey, we need to have more positive images out there. Others aren't going to do it for us, so I'm going to go out there and do it.
Right.
So I definitely commend you for that. So because
Thank you.
It's one thing to talk about it, and it's another thing to execute and have action on it. And so that's great. Excellent.
Right.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
You created no problem. You created YouNeek Studios. Give us the background story on the play on words with that title.
It's actually a pretty funny thing. So when I decided that, okay, I wanted to produce this graphic novel, EXO, and I didn't want to just do it under my name and say, okay, I'm a writer and this is my book. I wanted to start a company because I do have aspirations to do more than one superhero from Nigeria, more than one superhero from Africa. My passion is to create more diverse heroes, and diversity doesn't stop in color. Also female superheroes as well is something that I'm very, very passionate about. So, I decided that I needed something. I needed an umbrella to put all these heroes under. And that's when I decided, okay, you know what, let me come up with a company. And literally for about 2 weeks, I couldn't come up with a name that I felt like I was comfortable with. And, for anyone that started a business, that picking a name is very critical. So I kept on
right.
thinking, okay, what is it that I can do to make my name unique? What is it that I can do to make, whatever phrase or whatever terms that I'm putting in the business unique? And that word kept on coming back, unique. And I was just like, well, I'll just name it YouNeek Studios, but I'll just change out the spelling, where it's more like YOUNEEK as opposed to, the regular spelling for unique. So that's that's literally how I came up with it. It wasn't like any epiphany or anything like that. I just wanted something unique. And I just chose the name YouNeek.
Gotcha. And it sticks. I like it.
Right. Right.
So we talked about that you have your background in tech. How did that help with founding the company? Did your background in tech actually help? Did it deter it in any way, or was it like kind of a match made in heaven?
For me, I would say it was a match made in heaven, to be honest, and I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to actually go for my undergrad and my master's in computer science, because what that helped with was it's actually saved me a lot of money. So for me, because I was around in the whole computer science background, things like creating a website or coming up with a logo or doing something where it's like, okay, I need to for instance market my book. These are all things that I picked up while I was, running my own tech business, like I said, web design and web development. So there's a lot of overhead. There's a lot of things that I've saved on just because of my tech background. Like, I don't need to pay anyone to run my website. I don't need to pay anybody to build my website. I don't need to pay anybody to, do different things that, as a regular business, you would need a tech guy or a tech company to actually help out with. So for me, it was a match made in heaven. And also, a lot of aspects of the book are based around tech. So it was easy for me to do my research, easy for me to grasp things real quick in terms of, okay, attaching this to the story and, making certain elements work, with a suit. How does a suit work? What are the limitations? Things like that. So there were a lot of things that, I will say that really, really helped with my tech background and putting it together. And, for me, like, I've always been into sci-fi as well, The Matrix, Terminator, and different things. I grew up on all those things too. So for me, bringing all this together, like the sci-fi and also the superhero genre, was basically a match made in heaven for me. So I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Excellent. And I love hearing that. I love hearing that connection because
definitely
when we talk about tech, right, and we talk about how it can relate to what some of these kids are getting into and things like that. The sometimes the connection has to be made there in order for them to realize that tech is an industry for them, right? And there are more things. There are things that you can do, with tech that can actually help you. So if you want to become an artist, if you want to be involved in graphic design, a tech background can help with that, or even a graphic design can help with the tech. It works vice versa. So it's really good to hear how you put those two things together and made them work for you. It's excellent.
Thank you.
No problem. So, and we talked a little bit about this, but there's some other things involved with the character, the main character, Wale Williams. So I noticed in the graphic novel that the main character He has an advanced mind. He is a programmer, right? So how much of that, we know that you have that in common with him. So how much more of the Wale character is reflected in you?
Well, that's funny because him being a programmer and him being involved with tech is probably, I would say, some of the things that obviously would jump off the page in terms of, okay, what I do and some of my background in terms of how it relates. There are some, some elements of, my life that, I wrote into the character. But, without me spoiling too much or giving too much away, I would say that, Wale is a very, 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 very different, person. He's very reckless. He takes, huge amounts of risks. Like he's the kind of person that's like, if God forbid a building is coming down, he's going to run into the building trying to save people without any, thoughts of saving his life, which is a good thing. So definitely there are similarities, but the character is he's a very dynamic character, and part of what I was trying to do with Wale, honestly, is I was trying to make him as relatable as possible. Being a superhero or writing a superhero story sometimes can be tough because it's like these guys are basically gods amongst men, and it's very hard to identify with them if you write them in a way where they're so far off. So what I tried to do was, ground Wale as much as possible in terms of he's your everyday guy. So he returns home after a 5-year absence, and then he finds the super suits that his father left behind. Automatically he doesn't want to pick it up. He doesn't want anything to do with it, and that he also has a lot of issues with his father. So those dynamics in terms of the family issues, and then the pressure from his brother, trying to encourage him to be a hero, and he doesn't want to be a hero, and then, the city's under attack. So he's kind of like juggling so much personally, and then adding on top of that, he has the weight of the whole world on his shoulders. So there's a lot of things that, because I do feel as human beings, we do go through things on a daily basis where it's like we have to make so many decisions. We have so many dynamics with work, family, friends and things like that. And, life is about, okay, how do you balance all these things?
Yeah.
Superhero, and still making him have all those qualities that we have on a day-to-day basis is part of what my mission was in trying to make him as relatable as possible. And I think when you read the book, you would see a lot of that in his character.
Yeah, definitely. And I can vouch for that. Like I said, I read the entire graphic novel. And what I want to add to that is that that internal conflict that's seen in Wale and seen in other characters, the more relatable characters, the more popular characters out there in comics right now are the ones that have those flaws, right? Those internal conflicts going on, which is the reason why people are more attracted to somebody like Batman than they are Superman, because, he is vulnerable and things like that. So, definitely, it's definitely a good characteristic to put in a character. So that like you said, that character is more grounded. Is more grounded in reality. It's not all just I can lift a planet.
Right.
So it's funny because I'm a huge Marvel fan. There are a few DC characters that I like. But I'm a huge Marvel fan because the Marvel characters always have these character flaws, and they're for the most part they're not like these super omnipotent beings, right? Especially when it comes to like the X-Men. They're still they're powerful and everything like that. But they can still get beat down. They can still hurt. They can still bleed. Some of them even die. And I always like that as compared to some of the DC comics because some of their characters are just so far, they're so like omnipotent that it's just like, who can beat somebody who can run at the speed of light? Or somebody who can run so fast that he can change time, stuff like that. I like when they came back around. I like when they came back around and kind of grounded those characters a little bit and started putting some limitations on their powers, so they're not so so godlike. So
Right. No,
excellent.
definitely. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I personally, for me, I I still do a lot of DC, read a lot of DC stuff, and like you mentioned, I feel like one of the reasons why Batman is one of the most popular characters is, obviously because like you said, it's easy to relate to him. The issues he had growing up, being an orphan, losing his family, and growing up with Alfred and things like that. And not only that, I actually think one of the great things about Batman is also the villains as well. Because they are also not so much, thrown, far-fetched. I mean, apart from characters like maybe Killer Croc and things like that, all of the other characters, the villains are, so grounded as well. And it's like, like for instance, the Joker is just a complete psycho. Like I can imagine just a stupid psycho running. No, seriously, it's like it's something that you can relate to. It's like, oh, this guy is he's lost his mind and is doing X, Y, and Z. So, that's part of what I feel like you said. Making characters not just the hero, but the villains as well.
Right.
I personally, like for me, I like to write a villain in a way where it's not just about, okay, I want to take over the world, I want to destroy, the earth. It's like, okay, why do you want to take over the world? Or why is it that you want to kill this person? Why do you want to destroy that person? Like, what is the villain's backstory? Like I try to write it in a way where when you do see what the villain or why the villain is doing what he's doing, it's not like you're going to root for him, but it's like, okay, I actually understand why he's doing what he's doing. I may not agree with what he's, doing in return or the way he's responding to it, but I can understand why.
Yeah, and I got a question coming up too about that, because I actually peeped that about the villain in your story. So we're going to get to that in a second, and we're not going to give everything away, but it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. So from a science and technology standpoint, and I know you said that your background in computer science kind of helped you with creating a character and some of the the backstory and things like that. How much of that how much research and planning actually went into creating Excel?
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you get that question? Okay. So how much?
No.
I'll repeat it then.
Okay.
So, from a science and technology standpoint, how much research and planning actually went into creating EXO character?
Actually, a lot. To be honest, when I first started it, because I think I was a little bit overconfident because of my background. I was just like, well, yeah, I studied computer science. I grew up watching sci-fi. I've seen all the movies. I know what to do. But then when I actually started the writing, it really hit me that, well, you know what, because I started to care more about the characters, I started to care more about the story automatically, and I wanted things to be as authentic as possible. So a great deal of research actually did go into, what I was trying to do, because like I said, it's more, his powers are based on tech, and not just the tech outside the suit, but the tech that's within, Wally himself. So it was. I'm trying not to spoil the whole story. But it was. There's a lot of research that did go into, the background, and also being that it's set in the future. I mean, it's a near future. It's 10 years ahead. Also researching. Okay, what will Nigeria look like in 10 years? What will Africa look like in 10 years? So those are some of the things that I also had to research. In terms of bringing that balance between, okay, this is what you see now, this is what, Africa can be, in the future, and, this is how it works, this is how its powers work, and things like that. So, a great deal of research, did go into it. And I'm not going to lie and say that the computer science didn't help, but it didn't really help that much because, we're taught, okay, Java or C++ in school, but when you're talking about, nanotechnology and nanites and how they work with, your blood cells and things like that. Those are things that I didn't get the education for. So, trying to research on that, it was a tough hill to climb, but one that I enjoyed very well.
All right. That's interesting. So, like, what type of, what type of, like, like publications are you having to like read through? Like, are you having to, or are these just websites you're going to and getting this information, or are you like consulting with like maybe somebody that you know that's into nanotechnology? Like, how does that dynamic work?
Well, it's actually a combination of all the things that you mentioned. I try to buy as many books as possible and just read, different kind of books from, different aspects of technology and science, and also, ask questions as well. There's some people that I just go on forums as I'm reading it, and if I see something that's interesting, I can email that person or, reply to a thread and say, hey, oh, this works this way. So can you tell me, how exactly it works, or, hypothetically, if this happened, what is if this reacted with this, what could possibly happen, or does this seem feasible for something in the future to happen? And so there was a whole lot of combination of research online, Google, Wikipedia, talking to people, buying books. So it's actually a combination of different things, but luckily, it's easier to do that now as opposed to maybe 20, 25 years ago when, you didn't have Google, or, you didn't have the internet or things like that. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful that, I got to grow up in this tech boom, because it does, make things more accessible. It makes things easier to research. I mean, easier not in the sense that, okay, it's more easier to grasp, but it's easier to get the information and actually assimilate that information as well.
Wow. I want to say, send a shout out to Thaddeus Howes. He's a gentleman that that I met through Blacks in Technology early on in Blacks in Technology history, and he's a writer. He's a sci-fi writer. He's a really good sci-fi writer, actually. I've read like a few of his blogs and things like that. And I used to chat with them online quite a bit. And I think we got into a discussion, and I was just amazed when I see his writing, because he's in the tech as well. But when I see his writing, more along the lines of the science fiction realm, it's just it's mind blowing. And I'm just like, how in the hell do you know all this in order to write about it? Because it takes takes a certain level of, you have to research this stuff. It's not something that's just out of, in order to put the story together and make it sound real, right? And make the tech in it sound as real as possible, you have to do some research. He does a really good job at it. I just want to, shout out to him because, just reading his stuff and reading the stuff that, in your graphic novel, I know that the research has to be intense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is intense, and because people, I feel like if you don't put in the work, people will know. Like if you're just going and just writing gibberish and just making it up, as you go, people will be able to detect that nowadays. People are very smart. People are tech savvy, so all it takes is a Google search on what you wrote, to be, to be exposed, so to speak. So I also wanted to point out though that the research for me wasn't just about tech, and how tech works. There were also things like researching karate kicks, the angles for kicks and things like that, because Wale has a karate background. Growing up, he studied in karate and martial arts. So those are some of the things that I also had to research. Is okay, if someone is a karate kick, is it different from a kung fu kick? Is a karate slam different from a judo slam? And having to do karate while you're wearing a super suit, how possible is that? How flexible does the suit have to be? Is it more metal or is it more carbon fiber? Can it bend? How heavy is the suit? So these are things that I had to spend sleepless nights, trying to research, because like I said, I just didn't want to put something out there and just say, hey, this guy does this. Like, why does it do it? How does it do it? So I'm saying, and these are some of the things that you not only see in the book, but also the next book that's about to come out, the part 2, is that I do go a lot more deeper into why the suit works, how the suit works, and things like that. So people will definitely get to appreciate the amount of research that went to the book. Like I said, not just in the sci-fi aspect of things, but a whole bunch of different variations of research.
Excellent. And thanks for that, for that answer. I mean, that's,
Sure.
for people out there that that might be thinking about getting into graphic novels or writing their own sci-fi. That it takes some research, people. So don't go into it. Don't go into it half-assed.
Right.
People, it won't be right. So
Right.
yeah. So
right.
definitely.
Definitely.
Getting back to the character Wale. In the book, there's a relationship between him and his father, and I've seen that relationship played out in other comic books, and using that as the basis of the creation. Sometimes it is sometimes kind of reluctant hero. Sometimes people don't want to be the hero. Sometimes people take up the mantle willingly. We've seen that in comics like Batman, Iron Man, Black Panther. Black Panther. He was a willing, hey, I'm going to don the Black Panther suit and the mantle because I'm the next in line. And people like Cyborg, he was kind of thrust into it. It was kind of more of an accidental type thing as opposed to. So, I mean, what made you decide to go with that as the angle for the genesis of this super? That father-son relationship angle.
Yeah. I'm actually very happy you asked that question because that's actually a great question. And I'm also glad you mentioned those characters. Iron Man, Batman, and T'Challa, which is the Black Panther as well. Because if you notice, there's some kind of there's a trend between those characters in terms of it was almost like they had a certain relationship with their with the father figure. And for me, I mean, Batman basically became a hero because criminals or a criminal, killed his parents, and then he decided to, I want to do something about that. T'Challa wanted to take over from his father. It was a thing of pride, and also with Tony Stark as well. Being the going from a playboy to actually being responsible and taking over from his dad as well. So all these characters had positive relationships with their father. What the twist is in EXO is that Wale actually hates his father, and for me, I felt like that was a more interesting dynamic to play on, as opposed to like you said, the regular. My father built the suit. I need to take up the the mantle and actually finish his work and complete his work, save the day, and then the book ends. I immediately wanted to flip that over and be like, he gets back and he doesn't want anything at all to do with his father, and there's a really, really good reason why I really want to give it away, but I can't because that's actually one of the
right. Yeah, we
in the book. Yeah, but there's a strong reason why he hates his father, and it's almost justifiable. And for me, I felt like that conflict from the beginning of the book is just something that actually just takes you from the beginning and gets you hooked on immediately. A lot of people always come back to me and say, once I read the first 10, 15 pages, I couldn't put it down, and that's because of the way the dynamic of the family relationship works. Like you keep on wondering, how exactly is Wale going to find his way back from the tragedy that has happened within his family? So that's like I said, for me, it was all about flipping the regular thing in terms of father and son. Father loves the son loves the father. Son wants to make the father proud, and just flipping that around and just making it more interesting and making it son hates the dad. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, and like I said, we're not going to give anything away because we want people to go out there and purchase this graphic novel.
Right.
So, I mean, what was that process like to even come up with a storyline that you feel is going to capture, an audience like that? And I can, definitely vouch for what you said about the first 10 or 15 pages. Once you get into it and everything like that, you're just like, oh yeah, this is going to be good. I need to read the whole entire thing.
Right.
So how I mean, what was that process like? Was it like, were you brainstorming and just sitting down like, how can this be different? Or was it something that came to you and you were like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is how I'm going to do it.
Well, for me, honestly, it's something that hit me right away because I feel like one of the things that almost anybody in this world can universally relate to is family. And before I fully answer that question, I want to go back just a little bit. It's like I said, I'm doing this because I want to portray Africa and Nigeria in a different light, and do more Nigerian superheroes, African superheroes, because I believe that the reasons why we love superheroes, Batman, Superman, Iron Man, whatever, it's not necessarily because of where they're from. It's because of their backstories. Why are they fighting, for what they're fighting for? What is it that motivates them? It's not about where they're from or the color of their skin. And one of the things that I immediately wanted to do is do a story that can be, okay, Africans and Nigerians can see it and be proud of it. It can be proudly African, but it can be something that internationally anybody can identify with. And that's when, for me, the whole thing that I wanted to go with was, family, because, I feel like universally everybody can relate to family. Everybody can relate to, having an issue with a family member, or, being hurt by a family member, how you want to mend a relationship with a family member, different dynamics of family. We all grow up in different environments, in different families, but we all have that dynamic of family. So for me, it was very important that, that was like, for me, the genesis and the basis of the story, because if you really when you read the book, you would see that everything basically starts from family. The book actually starts, one of the, first pages in the book, is, Wale having a family dinner with his family, so, that wasn't a mistake. It was very, very, very important to me that I grounded the story. It's a superhero story. We want to see the action. We want to see, him fighting crime, or, stopping the bad guys. But I basically just wanted to use the superhero context and the superhero genre to wrap around a great story about family.
I love it. I love that. And yeah, I definitely noticed. Anybody who's going to pick this the graphic novel up is definitely going to notice that. But that particular scene in the graphic novel, I really honed in on that. And I really enjoyed that scene in particularly of them all around the table eating, having dinner, and just talking amongst each other as family. I thought that was really great. So we talked about the hero, and let's talk a little bit about the villain. Not too much to give away things, but I love how you presented the villain. As someone who feels he's doing what's right for the people. That's kind of his claim. The people have been weakened by the government. We need to stand up to the corruption of the government. And I love that aspect of it. Whether or not I haven't totally figured out, because I'm waiting on the second one. Of course, I haven't totally figured out if this is all just a farce by him, but if it's genuine, it could be genuine. Some of these villains, they're delusional, and they actually believe that they're doing good by the people. So, how much of that is taken from the climate of what it is now in Nigeria? Is any of that taken from any of your background or anything like that?
Yeah, so it's actually twofold. So first of all, I'll talk about it from my background, growing up in Nigeria, and also some of the things that are going on in Nigeria right now. And then I'll talk about it more in a general perspective. So there's this terrorist group that you may know about, in Africa. It's called Boko Haram. And they're all about, we don't like what, the country is becoming, we're getting too westernized, we need to go back to X, Y, and Z, so we're just going to start killing people, basically. So you would see some of those elements in, Oniku, which is the main villain, and, the organization he runs, which is called the Creed. But it's not a one-to-one, because for me, I felt like that would be lazy, just saying, okay, yeah, this is my version of Boko Haram. No, that's really not what I'm trying to do, because I feel like that's a lazy way to write, because it's like, okay, it's really nothing new. We've seen this, But at the same time, I just want to put relatable elements. So as you open the book and you read it, it's like, okay, wow, these things actually happen in real life, and you get to see how it affects families, you get to see how it affects communities, and that could spur someone to do a little bit more research, and things like that. So those are some of the the touch points that I also wanted to to tie into the villainy of Oniku and the group he runs. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is, I was doing research and, into what actually, makes a villain. Not just a villain in terms of superpowers, but like in real life, serial killers, murderers and whatever. And, one thing I came across is that, like you said, in their mind, they're delusional about it. They feel like what they're doing is actually the right thing, and they feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I was born to do. This is what I'm meant to do. I mean, some of them actually, I wouldn't say just everyone. Some people are just crazy psycho, but some people actually feel like, no, seriously. Some people actually feel like what they're doing is justifiable. And, that was part of something that I took and I also added into the character, Oniku, who actually sees himself as a patriot of Nigeria. He sees himself as someone who is going to take the country, take over the city and then take over the country and then do things in the way he feels is right, because he feels like the government is getting too soft. There's too much power being given to civilians, too much power being given to people, too much freedom being given to people, and all that needs to be taken back and it needs to be controlled. From his perspective, he feels like everything going wrong in the country is because of a weak government and also too much control given to the people. So that's where he's coming from, and that's where his attacks are coming from. There's a different spin to that I cannot reveal right now, but you're gonna see more of that in book 2. You're gonna see more of that in book 2. But just to give it on a surface level, he does feel like what he's doing is something of being patriotic, and he really, really believes in what he's doing, and he doesn't really care who he hurts. As long as he gets to his goal, he feels like everybody that gets hurt on the way to that goal is making a sacrifice for the country. Gotcha.
Excellent. So I was very happy and excited to see that there was a woman of color introduced in a graphic novel as a superhero.
Yes.
I thought that was pretty dope.
Definitely.
So what made you decide to write that character in as a superhero?
Well, for me, as much as it was important to get a Nigerian, superhero, a male one, I wanted to do a female version as well. And I didn't want it to be a case where, okay, do a male one first, and then when it's popular, okay, now this is my female version of superhero. I wanted to do a hero that was part of this first book, part of my first story, and also do one that she can actually stand on her own. So it's not like she's a sidekick or anything. If you read the book and you see how she comes in, again, I'm trying not to give too much away, but if you see, like, the moment she steps on the page, that she means business, that she stands around.
Right.
And like, a matter of fact, a lot of people come back to me and they tell me that that's she's the best thing about the book. Like, when she came and she did X, Y, and Z, that was my favorite part of the book. And there's like a huge following that she's already having. As a matter of fact, I've had some fans send me emails and pressured me that, in the next couple of years, we better see a book based on her alone. So that's how much of a strong character that she is. And the fact that people can see that she actually stands on her own enough to even warrant a new book based on her alone means that I've done my job. Because, like I said, I didn't just want her to be some sort of, a love interest or just somebody that's kind of like, an auxiliary to who, EXO is or anything like that. I wanted her to stand on what's very important to me, to make her a strong character. And, I feel like we were able to, without giving too much away, because she's also a very, very key element in the story. And, I feel sometimes because I'm so passionate about my story, I just talk on and on and on, and then I release a lot of spoilers. So I'm just going to stop.
Well, I can definitely say that it made a huge impression. It was definitely a highlight of mine in the book.
Right.
Because I love the way that you didn't make her a side character. It wasn't just, this person is my sidekick. It was, she came in and she was the baddest one there. And I was just like, let's go. And I liked it. And I like the other dynamic that she played. And I'm not going to give that away, But
Right.
you said that Wale was kind of the reckless one, and I like the other
Right.
dynamic that she plays in that whole thing. So there's something I wanted to ask and to talk about. Because usually, in case anybody didn't know, I usually have questions prepared for our guests, and I send it to them beforehand so they can prepare, and so this can be a smoother conversation. But there was a question that kind of popped up in my head, and it kind of relates to, you doing this, you going out and you doing this on your own, and you making this happen, right?
Right.
And it's funny because we had a discussion today in the Blacks in Technology Slack group kind of around the same thing. And there was actually there's actually a YouTube video out there. I don't know if you ever seen the video with Kanye West and Sway, the DJ, and they are talking about Kanye being in the fashion or something like that. And he kind of goes off on Sway, and he's just like, "You don't have all the answers, Sway." And he keeps saying that, like, "You don't have all the answers, Sway." But what the whole conversation, what Kanye's point was, or I guess what he was trying to get around to, is that it's hard for him to break through, right? And I think Sway was just, what he was trying to say in that whole thing was, you're worth over $100 million. Why don't you just do it on your own? Why do you need Ralph Lauren, or why do you need Gucci, or whoever the fashion designer is, to do it when you make a ton of money? So I guess my question to you, because I know this is a thing in the comic book realm, is having characters or people of color depicted favorably and as superheroes in comics. So if you have all these writers and you have these people, how come there aren't more Black artists that are just saying, you know what, that are doing it like you? How come there are not more out there that are just, I guess what I'm trying, how hard is it really to put this thing together on your own and saying, hey, if Marvel's not going to do it, if DC Comics is not going to do it, or whoever, I'm going to do it myself, and I'm going to make my own mark. And if we get more and more of us doing that, and we'll break through eventually. We'll kick the door down as opposed to knocking on the door and say, hey, will you let me in?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and most of what I'm going to say now I covered in, I guess, the blog that you actually saw, and then that's how you found me.
Right.
The blog is titled "Don't Be Afraid to Fail." If you haven't seen it, just go to my website YouNeekStudios.com and check on the blog. You'll be able to see that. It's actually a very great read. It's something a lot of people say it inspires them. It actually inspired me more as I was writing it. So I would recommend you check that out if you can. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it's very simple as to the why we don't have more of this. It's very difficult. To me, this is the most difficult thing to get to where I am right now. It's the most difficult thing that I've ever had to do in my life, and I feel like the only reason why I am where I am right now, I'm not where I want to be yet. I still feel like there's a huge opportunity out there, and there's a position that I'm trying to put myself in, that I feel like I'm so far from, but at the same time I'm so far from where I started from. So I thank God for that every single day. But it's the reason why I feel like I am where I am today is because I just wanted it more than everybody. I feel like I wanted it more than Marvel, more than DC, whoever it is that was doing comics. At the time when I started doing this thing, I literally wanted it more than anybody, and I was willing to risk every single thing, for it. I mean, I've since I started this, I quit my job, my 9 to 5. I was making a lot of money doing, web development. I was doing government contracting, so I was living a very comfortable life, and I quit my job. I put all that aside. All my savings, all everything that I had, I put it into this comic book. So I put a whole lot on the line to get to where I am. And just to digress for a bit, initially in March 2012 was when I decided I felt like I wanted to do this project. I wanted it to be an animation at first. That's what I wanted, an animated series. So I put together a short clip of, animated test pilot episode of what I thought, thought the EXO would be like. You can also check, the trailer out on my website too. I started shopping it around to different people, huge distributors, different investors. And as much as they like the quality, they like the trailer, I kept on hearing, well, we don't know if this is gonna work. We don't know if this is gonna work. The character, I don't know. We have so many superheroes. I don't know if we can work with yours. Sorry, blah blah blah. I even had one producer tell me to change the main character, change the color of the skin. And I was like,
wow.
With all due respect, this is the only reason why I feel like I'm unique right now is because I'm doing a superhero based out of Nigeria. How many of that have you heard about, before? So I did that literally for about 2 years, and I just decided, you know what, if no one's going to make my dream come true, I'm going to go outside and do it myself, at least what I can do, because there's one thing that I always say, in this life, nobody really owes you anything. If you want to make your dream come true, you have to go out and make your dream come true. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
And then once people start to see your dream coming true, that's when they join the bandwagon, so to speak. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a step back. Obviously, I can't afford the animation myself. I don't have millions of dollars to do an animated series myself. So what can I do? Do a graphic novel. So I saved up a lot of money, started a Kickstarter, was able to raise $10,000, thank God. And I just produced a graphic novel. And as soon as I launched it, it's been a great ride, positive reviews, people telling me that, this is one of the best books they've ever read. People telling me that, they can't wait for the next one and they're so proud of what I'm doing. And these are people that are not my family members or friends. These are people like I haven't even seen from anywhere. Right. It's, just to go back again to answer your question, it's not easy, as a first-time producer or a first-time writer or first-time, whatever, trying to do a comic book and also being a person of color, it's hard.
Right.
There are not a lot of opportunities. Even till now, some of the bigger comic book blogs have refused to feature anything from me. I've sent out emails, sent out different things, and it's just like, well, we don't know if you're going to generate a lot of hits, so we can't post your stuff on our website. So I still face a lot of challenges even till now. But that's part of the process, man. If you're not ready to pay the price, then you might as well just go back to the status quo because, like I said, you have to want it more than everybody else. You really do have to want it more than everybody else.
Well, I'm definitely glad you didn't go back to the status quo because, like I said, I really enjoyed the graphic novel, and I definitely can't wait to the second and the third and however many you make. I'll keep definitely supporting it.
Thank you.
So with that, what advice would you give to anyone wanting to pursue the same endeavors that you have and possibly creating a graphic novel? What's some practical advice that you would give them?
It's the same advice I give to anybody who's trying to chase a dream. It doesn't have to be a graphic novel. It could be it could be you wanting to, be a lawyer, you want to start your own business, you want to write a regular book, whatever it is that, you have to try. You can't let fear, determine your future. I always say that I would rather try and fail, than not do anything and then in 20 years look back at myself as a failure because I didn't try. Right. It's don't be afraid to fail because when you do fail, you learn from it and you adjust and you come back. A lot of people look at me now and I get a lot of, emails and messages on social media that, wow, dude, you just came from nowhere. Your stuff is awesome. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I didn't just come from nowhere. I've been trying to do this for almost 4 years now. And it's recently just this year that, I finally got a break because I decided to take a chance on myself and, put myself out there, put my story out there and just basically put everything that I had into what I believed in. So what I would say is if you do have a dream, could be a graphic novel, whatever it is,
Right.
Don't be afraid to try, and don't be afraid to fail. Because the alternative, I believe, is a failure. Not trying is failing.
Excellent advice, and I wholeheartedly agree. The thing about that I take away from that is something that we were discussing in a Slack group today, and it's about action and execution, right?
Right.
It's yeah, you can talk all day about it, but that's not going to get you anywhere.
Right.
You have to act, you have to execute on it, and that's just that. And if you can say that you did that and gave it your 110% or however, and you still didn't make it, then you're better than a person who's just sitting there still talking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So I definitely can agree with that. So what's next for you? What's next for YouNeek Studios? What do we have to look forward to in the future?
Well, I mean, the first thing that you have to look forward to is hopefully buying the book. If you haven't gotten it yet, please go to the website. It's YOUNEEK studios.com, and you can get the book. It's actually I put it on sale right now, so you can get it for a cheaper price than you would regularly get it online. It's also on Amazon as well. It's on Comixology, and it's on Kindle. You can basically get it anywhere if you read books. So please support. It's a great book, great story, great characters, and I guarantee you're going to enjoy it. But in terms of the next things, it's book 2. I already, it's funny. Literally 5 minutes before you called, I wrote the last line for book 2. So that's done. The script is done. For book 2, and that should be coming out sometime spring of next year. It would have come out sooner, but being that book 1, this is my first graphic novel, I wanted to give people enough chance, new people to actually get the book, read the book before book 2 came out. So that's why there's a huge gap between 1 and 2. But not only that, we're trying to get this into an animated series. We've gotten a lot of attention now that we released, book 1. CNN has featured the book, BBC, Mashable, Huffington Post, Forbes has, written articles about it as well. So there's a lot of people that, are aware about the book, and there's a lot of people that know about it. So, we are getting, some attention from, networks and distributors, not just here in the U.S., but also outside in Africa as well, Europe. So there's a lot of big things that could possibly happen soon, but there's really nothing solid right now, nothing signed. So, I don't want to get people too excited for anything. But my goal is to hopefully start producing an animated series sometime next year. And, there's a lot of things that I've been doing to try and get that working. I was at a conference just a couple of months ago called MidCom. It's basically where you go, to shop, pilot episodes for not just TV, but animation. And, a lot of people were blown away from the test animation that I did, and also the book as well. And we got some interest from there as well. So hopefully next year, you're not only seeing book 2, but you also see some kind of, progress in terms of the animated series from EXO, and also other superheroes as well. I have a lot of other ideas that I want to, produce for diverse superheroes. So watch out for that too. So.
Excellent. And I know you said nothing is solid, nothing is signed or anything like that, but I'm definitely putting the positive energy out there for you, man. Definitely. Because I want this whole thing to succeed for you, man. Because like I said, I'm in love with the graphic novel. I love the characters. I love the artwork as well. And I think it's just really important for our community that something like this exists. So I know you sent me over an advanced copy, but I'll definitely be purchasing. I want to purchase a print.
Sure. Thank you.
Of the book, because I'm a collector, so I have to have that print, and I got to get my plastic and my cardboard sleeves. And I gotta have it preserved. So
no problem.
I'll definitely
one more thing. One more thing I forgot to say is I want to shout out all the artists that worked on the book. Ayodele Elegba was the editor. Sukami Akingboye was the main artist. Raphael Kazim, he was the colorist in the book, and Godwin Akman was the guy that did the the main cover and all the other covers for the book. And like I said, one of my missions is to promote Nigerian and African art outside of Africa. So everybody that worked on the book is from Nigeria, based in Nigeria. And
right.
one of my missions was that if you feel my book, if you flip through it, not just the quality of the print, but like I said, the quality of the art, you would be able to say, wow, this is something that you would expect from a Marvel or a DC. And we were able to achieve that, and it came out of Africa, so that's one of the things I'm most proud of. And I just couldn't, I really wanted to just make sure that I put that out there.
Oh, definitely, and shout out to those guys and girls, if any. I don't know if you had any women involved in it, but if you did, shout out to them as well. It's great, man, and I hope everybody who's listening and people who check out the podcast definitely go out there and support this graphic novel and support Roye, because it's for a good cut and it's for a good cause. The depiction of our people is very important. Image means a lot. And for those who don't think so, YouTube a video about the black doll. I think it was the doll baby experiment. If you don't think image matters, YouTube that, and you will see that it definitely matters. So I'm glad that you're doing your part and helping with the image. And I definitely wish you much success, and congratulations on all the success you've achieved so far. And
thank you so much, man.
Definitely keep Blacks in Technology in the loop as to when the next one's coming out, because I'll definitely throw that up on the site and preview it and give you some promotion in, because like I said, I love what you're doing. So definitely keep us in the loop.
Definitely, no problem. There was something that I'm so sorry. Sorry about that.
No.
I wanted to mention, because it's very funny that you mentioned in terms of being represented and the baby doll experiment. There's a guy in Nigeria right now. What he does is that he sells black dolls, like alternative to like Barbie dolls. And in an interview, they were asking him, how did you come about this? Why are you doing this? And he kind of like said the same thing that you're saying, like he feels like representation matters. But what actually struck him is that he had a 4-year-old daughter, and he used to buy her a lot of Barbie dolls. And one day, she picked up the doll and she was playing with it while he was there, and she was like, Daddy, I wish I was white. And he was like, that was just when he was like, oh my God, like, this is actually something that, like you said, could be a problem in terms of representation. So it's not just important for us grown-ups. It's also important for our children that, you can see, a black superhero saving the world, or a Latino superhero saving the world, or a female superhero, saving the world. Because superheroes, they're very powerful right now in terms of, our generation, and they are seen as saviors. So it's very important that they are diverse, because, every culture wants to feel like, well, somebody from my background could be as important as that. Somebody from my background could be, a savior for, a city, or a savior for a country, and things like that. So, I like that you mentioned that, and that's why for me, like I said, it's more than just a book. It's also about representation as well.
Definitely. And before we get out of here, give us, how can people contact you? How can they, check out the book, and how can they follow you on Twitter? Give us all that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me on any social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, whatever it is, at YouNeek Studios, and that's spelled YOUNEEK Studios. So you can find me anywhere. And the best and easiest and the fastest way to actually get the book is on my website at YouNeekStudios.com. Again, YOUNEEK Studios.com. And you can get the prints, you can get digital. Everything is available on my website. And like I said, you can also get it on Amazon, Comixology, iBooks, iTunes. It's everywhere. Basically, just do a search for EXO, The Legend of Wally Williams, and, literally you'll be able to find it.
Excellent. Again, Roye, I definitely want to say it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Wish you much success in the future. Wish you much success right now. And
Thank you.
Keep us in the loop, and we'll definitely keep supporting you.
All right. Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate the time.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
And that's it for this episode of the Blacks. Was that a very inspiring podcast? I mean, you all have to admit that was pretty dope. Like I said, I ran across this article and I immediately said, I have to have this person on my podcast. It just, the intersection of all, the interests of, within technology and comic books and representation and image and everything, it all came together as one. And this one guest, and that's why I had to have him on. So I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Definitely check out the graphic novel. He shot me an advanced copy, but I'll definitely be purchasing a print copy. So that's it for this episode of Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast. I want to thank all our listeners. Thanks to our guest, Roye Okupe. And if you like what you heard tonight, want to let us know, you have any suggestions or comments, email them to us at contactus@blacksintechnology.net. We will be back probably in a few weeks with another great guest, so I hope you'll tune in then. And remember, tech yourself before you wreck yourself. Take care and have a good night.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology. Blacks in Technology.